Welcome everyone to the Texas Values Radio Show on this last day of July 2025. We are thrilled that you are joining us today. I'm Jonathan Covey. I'm the Policy Director for Texas Values, and I'm filling in for Jonathan Sines today on the Texas Values Report. You know, the special session is going on at the Texas Capitol this month, and lawmakers are dealing with some really big issues. And one of those issues is protecting the privacy of women in their spaces. And we have a fantastic guest lined up for you today to give you some insight on this issue. But before we get to her, we try to also remind you every time that you can catch us every week on this station, KTX W1120 The Bridge. You can watch us on demand at iHeartRadio, Facebook, Spotify, all of your favorite live streaming platforms. And so our guest today is none other than Payton McNabb, former high school athlete and Independent Women's Voice ambassador. In 2023, she was injured by a male volleyball player during a match, and she has since then been working tirelessly as a thought leader and a speaker on the women's sports issue, but also on an issue that Texas Values is currently fighting for in Texas, and that is ensuring the privacy of women and girls in sex-separated spaces. Payton, welcome to the Texas Values Report.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's fantastic to see you again, and you know, obviously we've had the pleasure of working with you on the Save Women's Sports issue, and which Texas passed into law for the college level back in 2023, and we already had a law in place for high school. But now, during the 2025 regular session and the special session, we're working on an issue that's, it's really gaining a lot of momentum nationally, especially with the Trump administration's focus on helping restore back the culture to a realization that sex is binary, right? And that women don't have to just shut up and accept men taking over their private spaces. And this is something that you've been beating the drum on for a while. So I guess let's just start there. Tell us a little bit about your background and journey that took you to kind of start advocating for the safety and privacy of women.
Absolutely. So I started a little over a couple years ago. I'm coming on 3 years since the injury happened. So my senior year of high school, I was permanently injured by a boy on the opposing side, on the opposing team, and it completely altered my life forever. And I chose to be an advocate for women's sports, and I have and will continue to be doing that. But unfortunately, I have seen and experienced the gender ideology push and how detrimental it can really be in a lot of different avenues. So not only did I see the sports thing, I ended up going to college, and little over a year ago, I was in person at my university, and I experienced it again. There was a man in the bathroom with me who had, a full dress on. He's almost 10 years older than me. I had no idea if he was a student there or like what he was doing there. I'm on a public university. People are allowed to just be in our dining hall. So I had no
Wow.
idea what this guy's, what his goal was.
Well,
So when I see him walking out like that, I'm just like in total shock. I'm in fear and just thinking about how all these little girls are constantly in and out of that bathroom. And in North Carolina, it's completely okay.
well, and I want to talk about that too because I know this was a very important thing that you went through earlier this year. But what is your background, as an athlete, and your experience tell you about the differences between men and women?
Yeah, so that's something that's just so basic, and I feel like we all learned that pretty early in our lives.
Mm.
That's just never been something that I've understood how people can see that in any other way. It's just that's the way it's been forever.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that we even have to fight for laws like this, but yeah, it's insane. I played sports my whole life. I started playing really early on, and I was a three-sport athlete all the way through. And I mean, it was so obvious that the boys team could play a lot harder than we could. I mean, we tried to keep up with them, but it just isn't like possible, isn't biologically possible for us to be the same as the boys. Hence why when we did play or practice with them, our coaches would have them not try as hard or not allowed to throw us down as hard or things like that. Like there would be things set in place just to be sure that the girls didn't get hurt. And if that's how I was constantly like growing up and seen that my whole life, and then just for me to be put on a team with just girls and there just magically is a boy on the other side and everyone's supposed to act like it's not happening or it's not a big deal, or we don't know what to say. And at the time it was legal in North Carolina, and I'm from such a rural area, like we never see things like that here, and so no one knew how to deal with it. And
Right.
at the time they weren't doing anything wrong. So it was such an uncomfortable situation to be in, but it really just made me think like if it's happening in rural North Carolina, it's happening everywhere.
Right. Exactly. You just mentioned this, but recently, I guess earlier this year, you had a victorious outcome with the Title IX case that was brought against you at your college at Western Carolina University, and tell us a little bit about that and how that progressed.
Yeah, so seeing, I kind of walked you through the bathroom thing. I walk out and I see this fully grown man. And it was such a weird situation for me to be put in yet again, because I was just thinking like all I do is advocate for women to stand up to this stuff and say no to this. So how hypocritical of it would have been of me to just smile and wave at this guy and act like everything's fine,
Right.
because it's not. And you know, I have I'm able to like make statements and call out these things. I've been put in a position where I can speak up on this. So how would I be okay with myself just ignoring that completely? So I decided to question him. I videoed it for my safety and I posted it for awareness. It completely blew up the next day. I got a call by my school and my sorority the next day where they both needed to meet with me. I ended up going through two different trials with my sorority. I had two different panels. It was a whole thing. I ended up getting my membership exterminated immediately with the sorority within a few weeks. But with the university itself, I ended up going through a 9 month civil rights battle where I was having to fight not only being expelled, but also being charged with sexual harassment, which is what this guy was trying to get to happen to me. And it forced me to move home and continue to finish my studies online because even the school didn't think I was safe there. And I've my whole future has been altered by this completely. I ended up being able to win that case and prevail this past January, but that was 9 months of a legal battle and legal fees that any other 19-year-old girl isn't going to be able to just take that on and do that. And these schools take on these cases when they know they're going to win. And
What?
it just wasn't going to happen with me. We just laid out the law. We told them exactly what happened. There was no way I could be charged with sexual harassment.
Right. Right. What went through your mind with your school not standing up for you and feeling like they were actually against you in this type of fight?
It was heartbreaking. This is a school that means a lot to my family. They all went there. My dad went there, my all of my uncles and cousins, everybody. So I was so excited to go there. I always knew I was going to go. And for them just to completely turn their back on me and kind of just slap, it felt like just a slap in the face for them to team up with the guy and help him
Right.
figure out how to file a complaint on me and walk him through it with every detail, and just for them not help me at all. And they didn't even want me there. And that's just like heartbreaking, especially when I'm just trying to continue my future and complete my education.
Well, and it's I guess it speaks to the sort of the woke ideology that many colleges and universities have accepted, right? That they would take a side against women in this type of fight. Let me cut real quick. We're talking with Payton McNabb, the Independent Women's Voice Ambassador. Folks, if you find value in the work that we do, go to txvalues.org. Check out our other materials. Our materials on religious freedom. Maybe click that donation box. Become a monthly supporter. Your support helps us keep quality folks to continue to represent your values at the Capitol, to keep all sorts of things out of public libraries, and of course to protect women's private spaces and work on that type of legislation. Peyton, when we look around, there's sort of a national conversation, I think, raging about state laws that protect women in private spaces. There are a number of states that are looking at this type of legislation, including Texas. Texas has Senate Bill 7, the Texas Privacy Act, Texas Women's Privacy Act. Tell me, in your thoughts, why is this such an important battle right now, and why is it important for women to speak out and not just roll over to this woke ideology?
Yeah, this is incredibly important. I mean, women's spaces they deserve to be protected at bare minimum. And, I fight for the sports and for the locker rooms and bathrooms and sororities, dorms, all of that, especially the prisons as well. Last time I was there, I got to go with my dear friend Amy, who speaks on this quite often. And I feel like that one often gets overlooked when it definitely should not be. So I think, just continuing to have these conversations and be open to have these conversations all across the board is completely, that's what helps, because it creates more of a safe space for these women to be able to be strong enough or courageous enough to stand up and say something, because oftentimes, more often than not, these women are being threatened into silence, and it's so sad to see. But at the end of the day, you don't owe silence to anyone, and what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and there's no other way to go about it. So I think just continuing to speak up when you see something, because that's the only way these things are going to get changed, and just being willing to continue to talk about it, because I feel like that's what kind of stopped it the past few years, is people being afraid to even have these conversations, like the hard ones that get people uncomfortable. But women are being the ones that are affected because people are not willing to have the conversations.
I like the way you put that. You don't owe silence to anyone. I mean, because there's real fear out there, right? People are afraid of the consequences of what might happen if they speak up. Women are afraid, and I mean, even you had to deal with a lot of consequences as well. I think you said before, people tried to dox your private information, things like that. So, there are definitely things that are creating fear, but you have the duty, and you don't owe the silence to anyone to accept something that's not a biological reality.
Absolutely.
You know, I saw you. I think it may have been back in February or March. You were at a joint session of Congress, and you were recognized by President Trump. So is it a little bit encouraging that at least your president is on board with this issue and is actively going after colleges that betray women by pulling their federal funding?
Oh, for sure. I mean, these are things that he promised on and campaigned on, and he is just proving that he's keeping all of those promises. He has worked tirelessly, and just seeing what this administration has accomplished in such a short time has just been so nice and so refreshing to see. And having a president that cares so deeply about this issue in particular, and the last administration, it felt like we were crying out and begging, and we were getting nothing, just complete silence and not even any acknowledgement whatsoever. So to see a
Right.
president champion you know these issues and take them for what they are, and elevate these stories and give them that platform for the world to see how wrong it really is, it's refreshing, and it's such a blessing, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Now, you were in a little mini documentary made about your story. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was incredible. Independent Women Features did an amazing job with that. My family got to be involved, which was so special. And, you really just got to see that. Although I feel like I've shared, everyone's heard how I feel about it, but you really got to see how, it affected my parents, it affected my siblings, it affected my
Right.
community, and just everyone as a whole. So it definitely it was a lot bigger than maybe I am able to show at times. I feel like I have a hard time showing my emotions, or it was hard for me in the beginning to really, talk about my injury because I didn't want anyone to feel bad for me. So like it was kind of hard at first, but
Yeah.
for now, I feel like I've said it so many times that, a lot of people probably already know what I'm gonna say. So just to see my parents and my family be involved and share, their perspectives and how they see it, it's just something very special.
It was very special. I watched the documentary and it was moving to me as well. And one thing that stood out to me was how I think your parents and your sister and so many people just said, yeah, we knew that this was a possibility, but we didn't think it would happen to us, and we didn't think it would happen to
Hmm.
Peyton. And of course, that's sort of the reality though that women are faced with, right? It could happen to anyone.
Yep, that's absolutely true, and I think that's really what drove me like from the beginning, because like I said earlier, this is happening to me in rural North Carolina. My school had I graduated with 30 people. Like, it's really small over here, and I never thought that it would ever happen to me. And unfortunately, it took it happening to me and completely affecting my life for me to say something or do something about it. So I think that's been my biggest goal, is to encourage other girls and parents and coaches to not wait for it to happen to you before you do something about it. Let's be proactive instead of reactive, and let's get this, you know, nipped in the bud before it happens to anyone else.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Is there anything else that you can tell or you'd like to tell our listeners as we wrap up?
Well, I just want to point out, I have been healed a lot. My good Lord and Savior has healed me the past
Amen.
few years, and um, I've gotten a lot better since then, and I just am very blessed to have so many people praying around me and for me every single day. So I think that's just been my drive through this. None of this is for me. This is all for my younger sister, and if I get blessed enough to have daughters one day, it's for them. My time playing is over, but I knew that the Lord had a bigger plan for me, and I'm just going to continue to follow it the best of my abilities.
Well, thank you for just the real raw sharing of your story and how things went. We're very grateful for you as a thought leader and as a speaker on this issue. And our team will continue to pray for you as well. We have prayer time as a team, as a staff here at Texas Values. So you're in our prayers as well. And I hope you have a great day. But thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Well, we're grateful to have Payton joining us this morning. And the truth is, there is a strong possibility that this whole issue of private sex separated spaces will reach the U.S. Supreme Court in the near future. We know this because when federal appellate courts start splitting, they're called circuit splits. That means they hear different types of cases, but or they hear the same types of cases rather, and have different outcomes. That's a sign that the U.S. Supreme Court may be preparing to step in at some point and make a ruling on one side or the other. For example, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes Florida and Alabama and Georgia, they held that separating spaces based on biological sex does not violate the Constitution. So this means that the public schools in the 11th Circuit, they can lawfully require students to use locker rooms and restrooms and spaces that match their sex. Now, the Fourth Circuit, on the other hand, recognized the false concept of gender identity, and said that gender is a thing that happens in the mind, and it isn't just limited what we call a binary. This means only two genders, male and female. So one thing is clear: the U.S. Supreme Court over the last few years has strongly tended to defer to individual states when regulating cultural issues. Like, if you look at, for example, Dobbs v. Jackson, this was the case that overturned Roe v. Wade. And they've tended to favor these individual states on a wide range of issues. We're talking parental rights and education, religion, personal rights as well. So this is a tendency to reflect the nation's founding principle of federalism, and that's quite likely that this could be the case for the issue of women's privacy as well, which is why it's so important that states like Texas pass these really good and common sense pieces of legislation that uphold biological reality. Texas passed a bill this past regular session, HB 229. This was defining male and female in Texas statute. We've never had something like this before. And now we're working on the Texas Women's Privacy Act, protecting women's private sex-separated spaces for restrooms, locker rooms, and other facilities as well. And so this really brings us full circle, because at Texas Values, our mission isn't just to advocate for common sense laws. Now, that's a big part of it, but our mission is to educate and to motivate so that as people from all walks of life start going into careers and becoming judges and going into careers and becoming lawmakers and politicians or thought leaders, those people are firmly grounded to the reality of how God made us. He made us male and female. And that those people are passing that firm foundation on to the next generation as well. So that's the mission of Texas Values, and that's what we continually work for. Well, we are coming to the end of our show, but don't forget the Texas Faith Fest in September. This is our annual policy conference that we put on. It will be September 26th and September 27th, and it will be at Great Hills Baptist Church. We're going to talk about all sorts of cutting-edge policy issues that come up in the next session in 2027. It's hard to believe that we're saying that, but the big news, the big announcement, if you haven't heard, is, and we announced this past week, just a couple days ago, is that Governor Abbott himself will be joining Faith Fest as our lead keynote for the event. So make sure you get your tickets while there's still time. We've got tickets available. It's going to be a great time with Governor Abbott and some other exciting speakers to help motivate and educate and activate you to make a difference in your local communities. So we want to thank our faithful listeners and our supporters. And just say that if you find value in the work that we do here at Texas Values, what we're doing, you can make a donation to help us keep going. Go to txvalues.org, drop that donation, and just remember, we're in a special session now. We'll continue to work for these issues of faith, family, and freedom, but government belongs to those who show up. And our team, we continually go out. We're at special session. We're at regular session every single day that the lawmakers are in session. We are there, and we're shaking their hands, and we're talking to them, and we're giving them information, and we're providing them things in order to make a difference for not only protecting women's privacy, but we worked on parental rights during the regular session. We worked on medical conscience protections. This was a piece of legislation that Dr. Oliverson and Senator Sparks from Texas Senate helped us with. We worked on so many other issues, and we continue to do that for you on your behalf because we want to uplift Texas values. So remember, government belongs to those who show up, and we show up for you, and we're your voice in government for social conservative issues. So we thank you for joining us, for taking the time to be here on the Texas Values Report, and we'll see you back here next time as we continue to lay down a vision for the next conservative generation. Thanks, guys.